What's up, guys? It's Benny. I'm starting to get weighed down by wearing all of my medals, the I got exactly what I voted for medals, because Democrat senators who are trying to attack members of the Trump administration are getting put in handcuffs and dragged away by the FBI. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, meet California Senator Alex Padilla. Alex Padilla says the vast majority of the LA rioters were peaceful and passionate. Of course, he's somebody who would never be in the Senate were it not for California ripping off the American voter by shoving tens of millions of criminal aliens into a red state in order to flip it blue forever. So low IQ morons like Alex Padilla get Senate seats in red states. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be a red state in California as Trump administration officials have effectively taken over Los Angeles. Trump sent in the Marines, the National Guard, and Kristi Noem, who was in Los Angeles today. Kristi Noem was giving a press conference in downtown LA saying that the Trump administration is going to use the IRS to track down who's responsible for these riots, who's behind them. It's going to be an incredible role, and we very much look forward to figuring out who's delivering all the bricks and all the stones, all the sticks, all the gas masks, all of the leaf blowers to these protesters. But in the midst of that press conference, a brouhaha took place. No one was quite sure what was going on. There was a major interruption in the room. Here's the broadcast.
We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
A half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty, how they have been targeted, and how their families have been put in jeopardy, and that we're not going to allow that anymore as well. That those individuals who are purposely endangering our ICE agents and our law enforcement officers and their families will be prosecuted for what they are doing as far as perpetuating violence on them.
Well, it came to be known that the interruption was not some type of screaming, rabid Marxist activist, smooth-brained, and totally, completely cucked. Oh, wait, that's exactly what it was. It just happens to also be a senator. Alex Padilla is his name. He was forcefully ejected from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's press conference and thrown to the ground and then arrested. Please enjoy this angle of his ejection and arrest.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your. I also want to hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed?
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here.
I did not know.
There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right?
For what, I'm sorry?
There's no recording allowed out here.
That's my boss. I have to
There's no recording allowed out
sir.
here. You can record. There's no recording allowed out here.
I'm not a member
There's
of the
no
press.
recording allowed.
I understand that, sir, but
Alex Padilla was thrown on the ground and handcuffed after fighting with federal agents. Kristi Noem's press conference. Please charge him, of course. You're not allowed to just stomp in and bull rush Kristi Noem, which is obviously exactly what's happening here. Kristi Noem is in charge of Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security oversees the Secret Service. She has high Secret Service protection. It also oversees multiple law enforcement agencies like Border Patrol and Department of Homeland Security, Police, the TSA, and so on. So when you charge at the secretary, that's going to be seen, no matter who you are, as a threat. Obviously, officers put him on the ground after he crashes the press conference, put him in handcuffs. You love to see it. He better be charged, just like LaMonica, because he's clearly fighting with the federal agents. Pretty remarkable imagery, and the news out of DHS is remarkable as well. Here we go from Homeland Security. Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater and interrupted a live press conference without identifying himself or having his Senate security pin on. He lunged towards Secretary Noem. Mr. Padilla was told repeatedly to back off and did not comply with the officer's repeated commands. Secret Service thought that he was an attacker. The officers acted appropriately. Secretary Noem met with Senator Padilla after and held a 15-minute long meeting. So that's well, incredibly. I wouldn't do that. I would say put him in jail. Why not put him in jail? There's a representative named LaMonica McIver, which did about the same thing. She's in the House, and she's now found guilty. She's now been indicted on 3 separate charges. May spend the next 17 years in prison for fighting with ICE agents. Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater, interrupted the live press conference. Yeah, Mr. Padilla was told repeatedly to back away, according to spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin, and did not comply with the officers' repeated commands. They thought he was an attacker. Kristi Noem still met with him and exchanged numbers and said that it was cordial. Alex Padilla was outside weeping and crying like a little bitch afterwards.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead. Stand behind my back.
All right. Cool.
One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording loud out here. I did not.
And then Kristi Noem was also on Fox News explaining what happened. Here we go.
We all saw what happened in the video of that room when he was physically taken out, and you heard just now his response, and I understand you had a personal conversation with him as well. So what do you want to say about all of this?
You know, what I would say is we were conducting a press conference to update everyone on the enforcement actions that are ongoing to bring peace to the city of Los Angeles. And this man burst into the room, started lunging towards the podium, interrupting me and elevating his voice, and was stopped, did not identify himself, and was removed from the room. So as soon as he identified himself, appropriate actions were taken. But I would say that, I had a conversation with the senator after this. We sat down for 10 to 15 minutes and talked about the fact that nobody knew who he was. He didn't say who he was, that until he was already had been lunging forward and people were trying to detain him for quite a period of time, and that this, we're leaders, we're public servants. And if he had requested a meeting, I would have loved to have sat down and had a conversation with him. That coming into a press conference like this is political theater. It's wrong, and it does a disservice to this country and the people who live here. So we sat down, had a conversation. We probably disagree on 90% of the topics, but we agreed to exchange phone numbers. We'll continue to talk and share information, and I think that's the way it should be in this country. I wish he would have acted that way in the beginning instead of creating a scene like this.
Well, you're saying that nobody knew who he was, and if they did, he would have been treated differently. And you just heard his comment. He said, if this is the way they treat a U.S. senator, you can only imagine how others are being treated in these deportation efforts. What would you say to that, Secretary?
Yeah. I think his statement is absolutely ridiculous. This man burst into a room, started advancing towards the podium, interrupting an opening statement, elevating his voice, shouting questions. People tried to stop him from interrupting the press conference. He refused and continued to lunge towards the podium, and that is when he was removed from the room. So the way that he acted was completely inappropriate. It wasn't becoming a U.S. senator or a public official, and perhaps he wanted the scene, and that's what he wanted. But I think the American people are sick of this kind of action. I think the American people are tired of this. They just want the truth, and they just want to know what's happening, and that's what we were trying to provide.
We just had a Democrat and a Republican panelists, and both sides agreed that they felt this was unbecoming behavior of a United States senator. But apparently Chuck Schumer doesn't feel that way. Senator Schumer, here's what he just had to say. Watch.
Mr. President, I just saw something that sickened my stomach. The manhandling of a United States senator. We need immediate answers to what the hell went on.
How can these federal agents get away with this? Is the President of the United States telling folks to go down and start arresting United States senators?
What would you say to them, Secretary?
Well, he was never arrested. He was never arrested, and nobody knew who he was when he came into the room creating a scene. He was removed from the room, and yes, they started to put handcuffs on him when he finally identified himself, and then that was stopped. They said he wants to talk to you. I said, sure, I'd love to sit down and visit. So we went to a room and visited for 10 or 15 minutes and then exchanged phone numbers. So I just, I'm so sick of the politics, Martha. This is literally people's lives. We have criminal gangs and terrorists out on our streets that we're trying to remove from Los Angeles. I mean, people just need to get over themselves and have the backs of law enforcement and this president who just want to clean up America and make it safe again.